Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
Welcome to the Youth
looking?
Podcast.
Where are we looking?
You can look at
That
probably
camera's
that camera,
that's your main
or
camera.
the middle one.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a name for our podcast?
Do I have a name? Yes. Gym Rats for non-gym rats. That's my new podcast.
No, a name for this
For our
podcast.
podcast.
Oh.
The Youth Podcast.
Oh my gosh.
No. Dave and
Mm-mm.
Whitney said that we should call it Our Youth Podcast.
Our Youth
Wow.
Podcast.
Yeah. Not very creative,
No.
but it is direct and to the point.
And the acronym is OIP.
Oip.
That's kind of fun. It sounds very
Mhm.
foreign.
Yeah.
Oip. Wow.
Sounds like
Okay.
somebody getting like hit by a ball that they didn't see coming.
Yeah, it's like the
Oip.
Midwest oop. Yeah, so we still don't have a name for our podcast, and we've gotten 0 suggestions from students, so very
Oh.
disappointing.
That's true. I'm going to write down
If
OIP.
you
Just
have a suggestion,
possibility.
we want to hear it. But I'm Gabby,
I am Justin.
and today we are joined by...
Lauren.
Yay! We're so excited to have you, Lauren. And Lauren actually came up with what... Did you come up with it, or did I come up with it?
You came with
I don't know. Yeah,
It was
as we
just a
were
little
talking,
conversation.
yeah, we came up with what our icebreaker question is.
Okay. I don't know it.
Okay, we are gonna say, what is a Justin core mood board, a Gabby core mood board, and a Lauren core mood board?
All right.
Do you understand? Do you know what a
that's
mood
what I was
board
going to ask.
It's like
I'm-
you know Pinterest?
Yeah.
It's like a bunch of pictures that represent you like on a board, you know.
Whoa.
I'm
So,
just
like,
Googling.
So
mood
what would
board.
my core mood board look
we
like?
were saying, what were we saying?
Okay, like this is a mood board.
Yeah. Like
Ooh,
Whoa.
February mood board.
oh yeah.
All the pink and romance stuff?
Yeah, like mood. Like this is like branding, basically.
Okay, so what would my brand be?
kind of.
That's way too much pressure for a
Well,
get to know you question.
Lauren had a great example of what would be
were
on your
we-
mood
what were
board.
we saying? I said Discord.
Fidget toys.
Yeah, fidget toys.
Would be on
Fidget
yours?
toys. No, yours.
Why would
Well,
fidget toys be on my
You're
mood
very
board?
like fidgety.
Am I?
It's just a vibe.
Yeah,
Oh.
like
Yeah.
fidget kid core. Maybe like an iPad if you were like. a
Wait, so we're
fidget kid.
telling each other what are on the other person's mood boards?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
we're assessing each other.
I'm feeling very self-conscious. Wait, what was the first one?
Discord.
Discord. I don't even use Discord.
Reddit.
Reddit. Yeah.
I barely use Reddit.
It's more about a vibe.
Yeah.
So I
it's
give off a
not, like-
Discord vibe.
Yeah, they don't have to be like
little bit.
true.
What does that mean?
like video gamer?
Okay.
Yeah,
Is
gamer
that not
core.
true?
I sound like a 12-year-old boy. Like Discord video games, fidget spinners.
Yeah.
I'd-
Basically.
I'd put like dice on your mood
Yeah.
board, or like
Okay.
a board game of some kind. Orange.
This is so much weirder. This
Yeah,
is like you
orange,
telling me
orange.
about the vibe I give
Or-
off,
or
which
like
is so much more
the-
uncomfortable.
The emojis that go like this, the finger emojis, the shy guy emojis.
Oh, I disagree.
Oh, you
disagree.
don't think shy guy emojis?
No,
What emoji?
I don't know. The thinking one with like the
Oh.
little spectacle.
The nerd glasses
the
one.
like thinking one.
Oh, goodness. Okay, let's move it to you two
Yeah.
and what your mood board would
Well, what
be.
would you put on your mood board?
I don't know. That's a really hard
You
question.
just learned about mood boards.
Yeah,
2
I did,
minutes
yeah.
ago.
Yeah, it's okay. We
Yeah,
just
no.
made a great mood board. for
Yeah, you
so
did.
don't-
I'll just
you
take
don't
that
need
as my
to.
mood board.
Yeah.
Fidget spinners, Discord,
Pretty solid.
some emojis. Yeah.
What would be on your mood board, Lauren?
My mood board?
Yeah.
Am I answering my own?
You should just tell us what would be on Gabby's then.
Okay.
Let's have-
Books, iced coffee, mom
Not
jeans.
coffee.
It'd be an
It'd be
iced chai, but that's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
It's about the vibe, okay?
Okay. Fair enough.
Scrunchies.
Yeah.
You say mom jeans
yeah.
and scrunchies.
Converse.
Yep.
Anime.
So this is kind of like starter pack. This is like Gabby's starter pack.
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
You're good,
You
you're
know
good,
what we're
you're
doing.
good.
Yeah,
Okay.
Like any type of like short sleeve striped shirt, I feel. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds about right.
I want to say cats, but I feel like maybe dogs. I don't know. Cat or
Yeah.
dog.
That's interesting. I'm a dog person, but do I give off a cat person vibe?
Yeah.
Much to consider. Very
The cat
interesting.
person vibe, isn't that like they're alone,
No,
And
no. It's just
temperamental?
Like, oh, see, I can tell you're not a cat person now because you just said that. Don't do cats like that. Cats are just no. Cats are like like they seem like they don't want to be around you at first, but like you realize they're a very loving and warm person, just like Gabby.
Just like you.
Aw.
What? No.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just despise everyone all the time.
that's just the cat front that you put on.
We'll never
Brutal.
know. We'll never know.
Do you want to hear a funny story about cats that Lauren knows about? Lauren knows this story. So
Yeah.
when I
Oh,
house
yeah.
sat for Lauren's family one time and like took care of like their animals, and I felt really bad because I'd known the Johnsons for so long, and they have a cat, and they would always call their cat Baby. And I was like, I felt really bad that I didn't know what the cat's name actually was, and I felt awkward, and I didn't want to ask because I was like, oh, I should know this by now, but I was just really confused. So while I was house sitting, I just started calling their cat Vlad. Just like Vladimir.
Why not baby?
Well, because I didn't.
It's not just baby, it's baby meow meow. So it's like kind of like hard
Yeah,
to
so I didn't
understand.
know that his name was actually Baby Meow Meow. Like that was actually his name, was Baby. I thought they just like called him Baby as like a term of endearment, and it felt weird to call him Baby because he's not my cat.
Yeah.
So I just called him Vlad, and then I realized that his name was actually Baby.
Yeah.
And
Baby meow meow.
yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe this is only funny to the Johnson family, but it was just this whole thing where I felt it was like, oh, I shouldn't ask what his name is because I feel like I should already know it, but now I feel awkward.
Everybody knows that awkward situation,
Yeah,
though, where
yeah,
you don't
yeah.
know someone's name or you've assumed, and then it's like way too late to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That gets weird.
Yeah. And in my defense, why would I have thought that Baby was his name?
Yeah.
How would I have known that?
We were maybe a little bit too creative in the naming process.
I think I'm just confused because if I heard somebody always calling an animal a
Baby.
name, I would just assume that's its name.
Even if the name was Baby?
Yeah, because I'd be like, well, if they always call it baby, if I'm trying to get the animal's attention, I just call it what they always call it
I guess.
because that's what they call it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Simplistic, Justin.
Yeah. Well, in my heart, he's Vlad still.
Baby
Yeah.
Vlad.
Yeah. Okay. Lauren, what's on your mood board? Anime,
You guys-
Pinterest,
Yeah, you guys tell me.
gold jewelry.
She's on fire.
What would you add?
Just the color black.
Whoa. I'm emo.
I would go blue pastel, actually. That's what I would
Really?
Gabby gets
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a pastel blue kind of gal.
Interesting.
and
Pastel blue, but pastel blue is like serene, calm. That's the like mood of that color, and that's not.
Lauren's getting roasted.
So serene and calm.
No, you're not.
Whoa. This is like
Are you?
maybe we should call
You
this
called me
podcast,
Discord fidget
we
spinner
roast you
boy.
for 45 minutes.
That's fair. That's fair. That's
That's
fair
a
point.
compliment. I have
That is not a
fidgets.
compliment.
I have fidgets.
Having fidgets and being somebody who you would typify as somebody who needs fidgets are very different things.
I guess that's fair. Yeah, fair enough.
There we go.
Would you call yourself a serene, calm person?
No.
Sweet. What mood would you use to describe yourself?
Yeah, probably angry all the time, actually.
So black.
Angry, okay, angry and happy at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like happy
Yeah.
all the time, but then like you look at me the wrong way or you breathe a little bit too close to
Just
me. And,
unbridled rage boiling underneath
yeah,
the
So
surface.
emo fits
World
pretty
War
well.
III. I guess so.
Maybe angsty? Is that?
Yeah, teenage angst maybe. Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
that goes.
Yeah.
I think coming up with your own mood board sounds really stressful. Yeah.
I have a mood board for myself actually on Pinterest.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at that afterwards and I'm going to see how I did.
Next week, should we bring our own mood boards and then show?
Yeah,
come
we
up with mood
should.
boards? See if we can remember.
I
Oh.
had to do that for an assignment once. I had to like cut out things from a magazine to like make a mood
Mm.
board.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah.
It's weird though, because are you trying to do the mood board that you want to be you, or the one that you think is actually you?
Well, people use it for different things. Like your 2024 mood board, people are like, this is how I want to be in 2024. And they have like healthy.
Yeah. It's almost like
Yoga.
an artsier New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah. I mean, a New Year's resolution where it's a vibe is way easier to maintain. rather
Yeah.
than like an actual thing.
Yeah.
How will I be in 2024? This picture.
Yeah.
Like no one can look at you and be like, you failed.
Yeah.
But-
Very true.
I like that. That's a good kind of resolution.
Okay. So we are going to pivot to a new question that we're going to start asking on the podcast. And that's just a pretty open-ended question. But Lauren, is there anything that you've read lately in the Bible or have heard lately or have experienced in your walk with Jesus lately that you want to share or have a question about? Pretty open-ended, but
This is the question I had that we were talking about before.
okay. Yeah,
So-
yeah.
We
Or
can
jump
dive
right
in-
into questions.
We can dive into questions. Yeah.
Go for
So like I've been seeing recently if how do you know which religion is the right one if all of them are telling us different things? And I feel like that's something I've been struggling with recently because it's I feel strong in my faith, but I'm also having questions that because no one's been able to answer that,
Yeah.
And it's if one because a lot of different religions have different ways of telling people how they get into heaven or how they can be saved, but
Mhm.
yeah, how can you be sure which one is right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great question. There's a couple there's a couple words in that question that I want to think about. What does it mean to be sure of something?
Confident in it.
Okay, so not 100% certainty, but confidence that it's the right one.
Yes. I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I don't know. I feel like maybe it could be a wrong answer.
No, it's not. It's more of you have a couple of implied things in that question. Because when you say how can we be sure of what we believe?
I just feel like I can never be 100% sure of anything. So confident is as close as I can get.
Of anything? You can't be 100%.
Well, I can be 100% sure that I'm alive right now, but I can't think of anything else.
Can you though? Or is this all a simulation?
Oh my gosh.
That's Descartes. That's I think therefore I am. The only thing he was
Yeah.
certain of is that he exists, which is kind of problematic.
Yeah, a little bit.
But then he actually, so most people, what's funny about Descartes, I don't know if you know this, what's funny about Descartes is that, for those of you who don't know, Rene Descartes was a philosopher and he went into a room and he thought everybody should go into, at some point, and deconstruct, which before it was a popular thing to do, but basically tear down everything you believe and then rebuild it. But most people only followed his tearing down and they didn't follow his rebuilding. And so when he tore everything down, he came to he exists and that's the only thing he can know. But then he slowly built up a belief in God from that. So most people follow him just to the dark part and don't follow him out of that weirdly, which is kind of depressing. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that other than the Rene Descartes'
connection.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But how do you make value judgments in general about things being true or not true?
Well, usually I pray to God about it and ask for some sort of sign or feeling about whether it's true or not, or whether it's something I should continue believing or not. But this is something I've been wondering for a while, and I haven't found because God hasn't come down from the sky and been here I am. This is the right way. So I don't know. I haven't really found an answer to that.
Yeah.
But how do you as you're exploring it? How do you go about deciding, or is that it? Kind of
Well,
as you're wondering.
I've tried looking in the Bible for things like that, but things that say how you get into heaven, but there's contradictory things that are well, which one weighs over the other one? Yeah.
So sorry.
What examples are you thinking of?
It's hard to remember because
Okay,
I've been
that's
looking
fine.
everywhere.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a couple first you had different religions, but then now you're talking more about theologies within Christianity of which one's right.
Yeah.
So how do you even know that the Bible is a thing you can trust to answer that question?
Well, yeah, that's another thing too. Is the Bible something I should use to trust, or is it something that could have been manipulated to help a different religion or part of Christianity over another part of Christianity? So yeah.
So what you're talking about in general is worldview kind of construction, or it's not always constructed. Sometimes I think our worldviews are just put into place as we grow up. And then people have different levels of deconstructing or reformulating worldviews. Like nobody's going to get through their teenage years without changing their worldview in some way. But it's like one of the things that helped me a lot as I was working on mine was this idea that ultimate authority will always rely on itself. So the idea being some people say this with the Bible. They'll be like, how do you trust the Bible? Well, the Bible says to trust the Bible. Well, that's not really a reliable source because it relies on itself. But the problem is any ultimate authority relies on itself. Because if there's anything else it's relying on, that thing is then the ultimate authority. So I think first what you have to do is kind of think through what's your ultimate authority. But beyond that, if you're doing worldview constructing, it's pretty complicated. Like one of my professors had this giant, massive book, apologetics book, and he had like 10 things, which doesn't maybe sound like a lot, but it was like 10 things that a worldview had to be. So one of them was like it had to lead to human flourishing, it had to be coherent, it had to connect to reality. And so he had like all of these things that a worldview had to be. And then what he argued was basically lay out every belief system or way of looking at the world and see which one kind of scores the best is like the crass way of saying it. I find that approach interesting, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried anything like that?
No, but that's hard too, because people can look at that so many ways. Like say, well, it doesn't lead to human life flourishing because God lets evil and sin and all this stuff happen in different places of the world. So is it like helping human flourishing? And also people argue that it's part of a bigger picture that's helping, but like no one can say who's right.
I think when we think about like the question of kind of evil and suffering a little bit, it almost like evil and suffering will persist whether or not you believe in God, right? Like the belief in God doesn't necessarily change the fact. I mean, obviously we think that if everyone was following Jesus, that would change the fact that there like wouldn't be necessarily evil and suffering in the way that we see it in the world. But yeah, the idea that, belief in God will change the like worldwide problem of evil and suffering doesn't necessarily that's not necessarily a coherent way to think about that. So.
Or like Tim Keller would suggest doubt your doubts. And so like when you ask a question, that's why like specificity is nice when it comes to doubts, because normally people aren't wondering like, is what I'm believing right? And they have no specific thing they're wondering about. Like when you ask the question of evil, if you think through major worldviews, how do they answer the question of evil? Well, atheism is going to say that's just life. Like it just sucks and there's no good. There's no answer. Even our concept of good and evil isn't even real. So the feelings you feel about evil are actually just evolutionary advantages because thinking bad is actually good for human thriving. Like that's their answer. If you go to like Hinduism or Buddhism, they're going to say we're trapped in a cycle. And you can try to be as good as you want and it'll make the cycle better. But the only way to really get out of the cycle is to stop wanting, stop desire. And eventually you'll get out of this cycle of rebirth and rebirth and rebirth. And then what you get is nothing. So like ultimate peace is nothing and not nothing, which is a really weird, that's kind of like what nirvana is or whatever. If you take Christian, Judeo-Christian, Islam, any of those religions that would have like a God, they would say that the problem of evil then becomes difficult because how do you have an all-loving, all-powerful God and omnipotent? And so they would say somehow God introduced free will and he let humans make a mess of it and that broke creation. So a lot of times people respond to like, how could sin create evil like bone cancer in a kid or a tsunami, right? Like that's what they'll go to. And I think the Christian answer would be that all of creation broke with Adam and Eve because the ground gets cursed when Adam and Eve sin. So it's like all of creation's broken now. I mean, those are, I think, the three major worldviews as far as evil goes. Would be atheism, Eastern religions, and then Judeo-Christian religions. And that's what's even interesting between, like, say you decided on one of those three, then you kind of like have to decide as you get closer and closer. And that's what's even fascinating about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam is they're all based on the same like mythological background, Abraham. And so if you decide, yep, I think like what God did with Abraham and the Jews was God actually moving, then you're kind of like, wow, which of these three is true? And how do you,
Yeah.
It's complicated.
Yeah. But to kind of go back to earlier to your kind of initial question, when I think about like being certain about something, I almost think that to a certain extent, as humans, we have a pretty very limited amount of like certainty, actually.
Mhm.
And that's not bad necessarily or wrong. Like, we are very limited and finite in the things that we can know and understand about the world and humanity, and especially about God and who he is. So I think the best, what we try to do as Christians, as followers of Jesus, is to assess what the Bible does say, right? That doesn't mean like that we just, I don't know, close our eyes and say,
Mhm.
I don't have to do any kind of verification of like, well, how did we get the Bible? How do we know that it wasn't like changed or
Used to control or manipulate.
Manipulated in a certain way? That doesn't mean that we can't like ask those questions genuinely.
Mhm.
Because I do think that there's pretty compelling answers to those questions. But then, okay, if we have the Bible, we're going to look through it then and say, okay, if this is a source of authority that we're going to trust in our lives, we know clearly that lots of people read the Bible and trust the Bible as a source of authority in their life and come to different conclusions on things. And there's varying like levels of importance that some of those questions are. Like the question of kind of how do you get into heaven maybe feels much weightier than maybe the question of, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that's
not so
would be like a
weighty.
Tertiary issue, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think.
I mean,
of
is
something.
tithing necessary? And
Or
should
how do
people
you
give to
practice the
churches?
Sabbath? Like things
Yeah.
like that become like kind of these like we would call maybe tertiary, like not primary issues within Christianity.
Mhm.
But so all that you can do is read the Bible, be in prayer, and come to a decision based on those things, and also based on the community, Christians, people around you, and sometimes community outside of the church too, right? Like, I know sometimes for me personally, looking at the worldview that my non-Christian friends have built their life on is sometimes, not to sound super crass, is sometimes equally compelling as like, yeah, actually, I don't want to live my life like that. Actually,
Mhm.
I feel like they've made lots of decisions that have been really hard and hurtful and have brought a lot of pain about in their life. And I actually can see really clearly how the Christian ethic, Christian living guards against those kinds of things. So yeah, I think when you like think about those 10 different things and how do
Mhm.
religions stack up on like a really global scale, that can be like a really overwhelming question to try and ask and think through. But I think, at least for me, when I look around, like personally in the relationships that I have, Christianity really quickly becomes pretty compelling to me when I see the life that some people I know live, and it's just really different and brings a lot of pain and heartache.
Yeah, and I think you could ask that about any worldview.
Yeah.
Like you could ask friends, like, why should atheism be what I believe in? Like, why should I believe there's no immaterial? Why does everything need to be measurable and quantifiable? Like, how can you know that if all you can do is measure and quantify the things that are measurable and quantified? Like, it'd be really easy if atheism becomes the dominant worldview across all of the world, which is not even close to right now. I feel like there'd be a huge rising. I mean, even in Gen Alpha right now, there's a rising people with spirituality of saying, no, there has to be more than just like raw data and things. Like, it can't be all there is. So, yeah. It's hard to know.
Yeah. But it's a good question. And that doesn't
Yep.
mean that we don't like ask those questions and genuinely seek them out.
I ask them all the time.
Yeah.
In the 21st century is so bizarre. Like, I go back to, imagine you're a peasant living in like, I don't know, 12th century, like Great Britain, and you're just farming, like, which is what almost everybody did. And someone comes and tells you, like, here's this king who is God and he died for you because he loved you that much. And you're going, oh, wow, there's a deity that made the world that actually cares about me. That sounds pretty compelling compared to like all these other religions that want their own thing. They don't have Google or a library. Like, we are in a brand new era where all of a sudden you have way too much information to sort through. So like it can feel so overwhelming to go like, oh, I have to be able to figure out morality and science and textual criticism, which, if you don't know, is just like, how do I know that a book is how it says it is? Like, how do I know the Bible was put together rightly and correctly? Like, we all of a sudden have to be experts in every single field, or we have to trust a different expert.
Yeah.
We have to have like these collective Christian experts that we go, oh, here's these 7 experts that I agree with all of them. But most of the time, I feel like we're really dumb lay people being like, that sounds great. I don't know what you're talking about, but cool. You know why you believe in that. I guess that gives me confidence.
Mhm.
I think for me, the practical answer was probably I met Christians. And so
Yeah.
similar to Gabby of saying, here are people who are living a very different life. And if I look at the different lives I want to lead, that's really appealing. Which sometimes, like, have you ever heard of the Pascal's wager? I don't know if you've heard of that.
Mm-mm.
You
I
probably
haven't.
have.
Yeah, you probably have. Pascal's wager is, would you trade your life for one more, or like another life? And most people are like, I don't know, maybe
Oh,
not.
yeah.
Yeah, would you trade your life for 5 more lives? Would you trade your life for 1,000 more lives? And people push back on Pascal's wager by saying that doesn't make it true. But Pascal's wager was never meant to make it true. It was meant to make people look into it.
Mhm.
It was supposed to say Christianity is worth looking into because the offer is eternal, perfect life with a God that loves you. So it's at least worth investigating, right? Like if the options in your life are escape to nothingness, die and there be nothingness, which is atheism and Eastern religion, or like perfect life with a God that loves you, might be worth at least checking out if that's true or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, how you come to that answer. But I think getting to like how do you decide what things are true is really important too,
Mhm.
because that might weirdly picking what things determine if it's true ahead of time might determine what answer you get. So if you decide, well, studies, experimentation. I mean, even a stupid meme of when atheists are told to believe in themselves, but there's no, peer-reviewed study based on
Oh,
them,
yeah.
and they can't. So like, obviously, it's a stupid thing, but how you decide what you're going to believe will shape your belief. So that's such a big question.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
Lauren.
Yeah,
I know.
no. It's really
What am I
good.
doing
It was a
here?
good. No, it was a good question. I wasn't
really
ready to
good.
answer it today.
Yeah. So, in case you can't tell, we can't answer every question.
Mhm.
Like when I say that, as humans we have a limited amount of certainty. Justin and I 100% fall into that, and we have a limited amount of answers that we can give.
Yep.
And a lot of times, the questions that you guys are thinking about are the same kinds of questions that we still wrestle with, and
Yeah.
still think through. And because we have literally so much information and knowledge at our fingertips. There's always both new questions coming up, and then for every question that comes up, there's like a billion responses and reactions to that question that
Yep.
we're always thinking through and sifting through, and trying to follow Jesus through. So, I don't know. I don't feel like we like answered your question. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I'm just
But
saying that
there's-
because
yeah.
we're just humans. We're just
Mhm.
humans trying to follow Jesus too. So yeah.
Yeah. And there's a concept in faith, like religious studies, that's called open and closed faith that I find helpful. And open faith is one that's genuinely trying to seek the truth and is always open to information and whatever.
Mhm.
I find having an open faith scary, but also beneficial because it's not saying, yep, I know Christianity is true 100% and I have all the facts and I can verify everything. But instead going like, it's pretty confusing, but I'm very compelled that Christianity is true. And so I'm going to give the only life that I have to that truth,
Mhm.
which is all I have to give. So,
Good questions.
yeah, very good
Fun
question.
to think about.
Yeah.
Fun to keep you up at night
Yeah, super
pondering
fun.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Should we do 2 more questions still? I feel like we kind of
Yeah, the
tackled
whole
like
question
8
is-
questions within that question.
Remember, let's jump into the other ones and see how long they go. Okay, so I have a
Okay.
question,
Yes.
and you can start the answer.
Okay.
What's a good motivational reminder to tell ourselves every day?
Don't be average, be alpha.
Is
Just
this part of your
kidding.
gym
Just
rat podcast?
Maybe. I feel like like as a Christian, I like to tell myself that like the God who made like this is a pretty not original one, but like the God who made the universe and the earth and all these like wonderful things chose to make you and chose you to be on the earth over like all the other people there could have been. And like that's encouraging to tell me when I feel like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I even alive? Because it's like, even though you feel like your life is like does not matter to anyone else in the world, like God has a plan for it. So that's like good to think about every morning before you like go out into the world and talk to people, to know that you have a purpose.
Yeah, for sure. The intentionality and purpose
Yeah.
that God has for you, your life. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like cool and scary sometimes thinking that God decided to
Yeah.
make us how he made us. Like, I would have made myself different.
Yeah.
To not give off fidget
Yeah.
energy.
To not give off
That
emo
would make the
energy.
long list of things that I would make different. Yeah. But yeah. That's really cool.
It's good. Do you have an answer to that?
I don't know. I'm not like a very good I don't have good motivation, like self-motivation because of the whole I feel like I can be more of a depressing down person.
Justin only listens to sad music.
Yeah. Cut.
It's
Wait,
mostly
cute
true.
without the E.
I haven't listened to that song in like 15 years
It's
or
just
20
stuck
years.
in my mind all the time.
It's an
It
emo
can't-
song from my teenage days.
Go give it a listen, guys. It's really good.
I do not endorse that song. Yeah, so like motivation is interesting. I think one phrase that I go to often is God is God and you are not. And that's motivational to me in that I don't have to carry the whole world. Because I feel like sometimes I
Yeah.
feel like I have to fix and solve everything. And that reminds me that's not my job. And then like that phrase usually brings up even moments in the Bible where I feel like if I was in so many characters' stories in the Bible, I would be trying to do way more than they did. And yeah, I think of how often like Daniel didn't really do much. Like if you go and read his story, what does he get in trouble for? Praying. That's what he was doing. Like he was praying. Not that he didn't, I'm sure he did a lot of other good things in his life and he was obviously well respected and loved. But I think my expectation would be like, oh, if I was Daniel, I would be like revolutionizing the Babylonian Empire or something like that. Or, but that wasn't God's call on his life. It was, oh, there's a law to not pray. And he keeps praying. Good job, Daniel. Like, wow, that's a pretty, like, in my mind, that's a pretty low bar, which is then weird to think about. I don't know. Yeah, that's where my mind goes.
Yeah. That makes me think this is like going in the opposite direction of like being motivational, I feel like. But there's some theologian who said something really famous that I think about a lot, and I'm about to butcher it when I retell it. But basically this idea of like following Jesus is like we're all illiterate brick makers and we just make maybe 1 or 2 bricks our whole life, but then God is like this architect that's orchestrating all these illiterate brick makers that are working together, and then at the end there's this like beautiful cathedral that's built.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that always resonates with me because it's both that idea of God is God and you are not, of like I'm gonna do something today that is gonna feel, I don't know, minuscule, like not very I can't think of the word I'm trying to say. Not very impactful, maybe. Like it just feels like mundane, average, ordinary.
Banal.
Yeah. But that's all I'm called to do. Is like average, ordinary, mundane tasks for Jesus that he's gonna use and make something well beyond the scope of anything that I could ever do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
that's
that
a
too
fun-
are we too depressing
No,
than motivational?
that was nice. I'd like to think of myself as an illiterate brick maker. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, the vibes.
Yeah, just making bricks all day.
Yeah. So follow for more epic tips.
Motivational.
Motivation.
Well, that's what's weird is like, I think one of the things that's helped like motivational, I think a lot of people, and it's kind of part of like hustle culture, but it's like motivation comes and goes, and it's dedication, discipline that actually runs the day.
Consistency.
Yeah. So in some ways, it's like the question is a weird one because maybe motivation isn't what we need.
Yeah. I remember feeling that a lot when I was living in London. Like the culture of London was like, it's this big, bustling, busy city. Ooh, look at all those bees. I didn't even mean to do that. And everyone had this like insanely large capacity. Like everyone was doing a million things all the time, and they were all so smart, and they all could like, I don't know. Like I just was like, I'm so tired, and I did half of the things.
Small town Gabby.
That this other intern did today. Like, am I a failure? Am I a bad Christian? Because like, am I not serving Jesus as well as this other person is? Like, this other person wrote way more talks than I did today. They wrote way smarter sounding talks than I did today too, and they met with way more people over the past. And I was like, oh, am I a failure? Like, is God not using me as effectively? So that picture of that illiterate brickmaker was this like really compelling thing of like, okay, I'm not called to be this like genius person who's super eloquent with my words, clearly. But I'm just called to follow Jesus with the things that I have. And that's all I can do. That's all anyone can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I need to think of some better motivational,
Yeah.
phrases. I'm not good with motivation.
I don't know. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a million motivational YouTube videos. My epic 4 a.m. morning routine videos that you can watch, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you all watch motivational YouTube videos?
Yeah.
What do you watch?
Which ones do you watch? What do they do in them?
Yeah.
I've watched some motivational TED Talks, how to live
Yeah,
your
yeah.
life better, how to not procrastinate, because I'm
Yeah. Yeah, procrastination is a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
Do you
basically it.
listen to motivational YouTube videos?
No. I don't know. I guess it depends on how you describe motivational. Like if you would say like, oh, is a sermon something that's motivational, or like I don't know, like I listen to lots of podcasts about the Bible and how to read God's word that like changes the way I think about the world and changes the way I think about who I am and how I read the Bible. And sometimes that leads to motivation in a change I want to make in my life or something.
But they're not videos designed for that.
But they're not like hustle culture videos.
Yeah.
If that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
I've never listened to any hustle culture ones. The only one I listened to is called An Invocation for Beginning by Frank. It has some profanity in it though.
I don't even know what that word means.
Invocation.
Invocation.
Like it's kind of like
invoking?
Yeah, well, it's like a convocation is the invocation is I think a like declaration of this beginning.
Okay.
And so it's like all these things, but the part I love about it is 2 parts. One, he says, even if this is just a stepping stone to something else, let me become enamored with the stone. And then the video ends and then he like pops back up and he says, in God, let me enjoy this. Life is not just a series of waiting for things to be done. And that line always stands out to me so much that I can get into this mindset of I'm just waiting for this thing to be done. Like I'm just getting stuff done and that's my life. And so like that one's probably the most helpful. Like, yeah, I should enjoy the things I do because God has given them to me given them to me to do uniquely to me.
So how do you enjoy something like school?
I hate school.
Yeah. How do we find enjoyment in the things that
I
are
could
hard?
not tell you. I'm so, oh gosh, I can't with school.
That was okay. So the John Mark Comer podcast I was listening to, one of the lines he said
about school.
That's well, not school. It was more like adulthood things, but I think it plays into school. He had this line where he said, "How do you find?" Or it's about finding the joy in the life God, the actual life you have, not the life you wish you had.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so hard because it's way easier. And like he was talking about people past school, but I feel like even in school, you're dreaming of some other life that you want to be in.
Yeah.
And that makes it so hard to enjoy what you're in.
Yeah. I've looked at train tickets out of Stevens Point so many times the past week.
Some escapism going on there.
$265 and I'm set.
You could get a flight cheaper than that.
Yeah.
Trains are more aesthetic.
But then what are you going to do when you like show up at somewhere?
Live in the woods? I don't know.
It's so much harder than you think.
Cottage core.
I don't know. But at this point, I for real think living in the woods is better than school for me.
How do you enjoy it? Or how do you find purpose and meaning in being a student?
The motivation to do better and set myself up for future success. Like getting into a college that I want or getting the career that I want or being better in sports or, other things like that.
How does that connect to your faith?
I'm still working on that part.
That's a hard part.
Yeah.
And we're not immune from that just because we work at a church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
I hope not.
It's a much easier question to ask than to answer.
Yeah. One thing I will say about for you to chew on and think about is that relationships in school, I mean, sometimes relationships in school like are horrible and they stink, but also like I see you. Like I see that you have like really good friendships with people that you care about and like seem to enjoy spending time with, I think.
Yeah,
And those kind of like relational interactions are a really unique part of school. Like like I get to hang out with Justin and like we're friends, but it's not the same as like the kind of social interaction that you're like steeped in school. It actually is a really it's really powerful, right? And like it's really powerful because it can be like weaponized and friends can be mean to each other and horrible to each other, but it can also be really powerful in a really positive way and a unique way that is really hard to replicate like once you get into kind of adulthood. So I would say if I could like look back on my like high school experience, because I did have really good friends in high school, and that is something that I don't know, maybe this makes it seem like I peaked in high school, but I like do miss that about what high school had to offer was like the kind of constant like being with my friends. It was really fun.
Yeah. I feel like at the very least in my school, which is not easy to think about God, like not in a like I don't want to think about God, but it's hard to keep that in my mind when I'm constantly thinking about like 100 things at once at school. But I feel like at the very least I have a lot of friends who are reminding me of God because we're all like strong or like have Christ centered in our lives or trying to at least. So it's good to have reminders of that throughout the day.
Yeah. And that's, I would say, is one of the most powerful tools that you kind of like have at your fingertips when you're in school. I mean, especially, working at a church is easier because we too are also around people all the time who are following Jesus. But for most people, they graduate and they go to college, and for most people, they will sit in a college lecture with a bunch of people who are not Christians, or they will go into a workplace with a bunch of people who are not Christians. So that even maybe comes back to like the idea of what we talked about last week with like building habits of reading Bible and prayer, because it's those habits that you build that are going to form the way that you're thinking when you're at school, and you're maybe not necessarily explicitly thinking about God, but you're thinking about all these other things. But the habits that you've put in place for yourself are going to shape how you think about those other things. So a habit of being in prayer can help you in those moments when you're not explicitly thinking about being a Christian and following Jesus per se.
Yeah. This has been fun, Lauren.
Yeah.
Any parting comments or questions for us?
Go listen to Cute Without the E and give us suggestions about the podcast name.
Yeah. And comment down below what's on all of our mood boards.
Yeah, comment down below. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, you know.
We don't do any of that, I don't think.
There we go. Well, maybe that's why we're not getting enough views.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we don't have a podcast
That's
name.
why we don't have views.
No, Lauren's going to drive up the view count like crazy.
I will.
Yeah.
I will.
She's going to bring her alpha gym rat army.
Yeah.
To OIP.
Yes, to OIP.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll work on that.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, this has been OIP, I guess. Our youth podcast. It's still unnamed.
Everybody turns off the video at this point anyway, so.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
no one's
So
actually
we could
listening.
talk about whatever we want right now.
That's true.
Yeah.
We could.
Justin could read us the lyrics of Cute Without
I'm
the
not gonna do that.
Everyone tell their deepest, darkest secret.
It starts
right
with this, I was gonna say the opening lines to the song, but I changed my mind.
Okay. Well,
bye guys.
bye everyone.